just moments ago, in a dramatic turn of events, that we saw the Advocate Teffo being arrested in court just moments after it was postponed. We understand that the charges have not yet been read out to him, nor has he been read his rights. But our reporter Hasina Agori is there, and she joins us again. Hasina, talk to us about what the very latest is. Do we have more information about this arrest?
Good afternoon, and I want to bring in someone with me, to give us more clarity. Someone who's been following the case and also knows Advocate Malesela Teffo quite well. We've also tried to speak with the attorney, he's instructing attorney in the matter. He said that he will speak to us in a bit, and give us more information. But I want to bring in John Clark. You've been someone who has been part of this case, as well as with Advocate Teffo for quite a while. Can you just give us some clarity? What did we see take place at the courtrooms? Do we understand why we saw the advocate being taken off in cuffs to the cells?
Well, it's not the first time that we've seen him arrested suddenly and disrupting his work. As somebody who I've come to know, who is a fierce struggler for the justice of people who are whistleblowers in the police, as well as in other contexts. He was a labor lawyer, as people know, he was a policeman for many years. He's now became an advocate and has been representing police officers who have been suspended and wrongfully dismissed. So he's not popular within the top brass of the South African police. So I think he's rattling some cases, and I think that I'm going to a conclusion now, but what really concerns me is that this is a case against people who are alleged to have killed Senzo Meyiwa 7.5 years ago. Now we all know that adage which everybody quotes, justice delayed is justice denied. I think what we've seen today is injustice compounded. Whatever charges Dan needs to face and answer to in court for whatever he's supposedly done wrong, the criminal justice system must function effectively to do that, without fear, favour or prejudice. The optics of police officers arriving to disrupt a critical criminal trial just begs a question as to what agenda is being followed. Now, as I've got to know Dan, and we have clients in common, supporting them through their ordeals of blowing the whistle against injustice, one has to say that this is probably the last kick of the dying horse. And I take an optimistic view that, well, they're showing their colours. Now, I don't want to prejudge what needs to happen in court when Dan finally goes through the process effectively, but you've got to ask why they are staging it as such a high-profile event in front of the media. They want to send a signal of intimidation to other people who are wanting to speak out against police corruption and the failure of the rule of law. That's what they want to do. We are not going to stand for that. We will stand our ground. This country does not belong to criminals and thugs. It belongs to good people that look to entrench the Bill of Rights as a script for how we can move forward into the future. Dan's rights, we believe, administrative justice have been violated here, and we just have to bring somebody onto the carpet to answer for that.
We saw just after lunch, when cross-examination was supposed to continue, the instructing attorney, telling the court that there have been intimidation and threats. What do you know about that intimidation and threats that they may have been facing? I mean, it's not the first time we've heard of this. Just a few weeks ago, we heard Advocate Teffo saying that the attorneys were facing death threats, for this case. What do you know about those threats that they have been facing for covering and representing the accused in this matter?
Well, it's what I've learned over the last year or more of working with whistleblowers is that retaliation strategies are standard practice. That's why we need a total revamp of our law and the Protective Disclosures Act and all the rest. Dan is effectively, to sum up his work, has been blowing the whistle in a public disclosure about the failure of our criminal justice system. They're retaliating against him, and that's why they're doing it. So the game is quite clear. And the sad thing is that I'm 65, a white male. Why is it that I'm now having to talk this thing? Because they don't have it as easy a time of actually intimidating people like us. And I just think it's wrong that we should have to resort to that. But I want to say the media are our partners in this, and that's the one thing that South Africa does have: freedom of expression, free speech. It so happens that I'm also the target of a defamation slap suit because of doing that.
Let's go back to the Meyiwa case just for a moment. We've seen such a long delay already coming through. What happens with having now the defense advocate facing his own charges, being also handcuffed in court? What does it do for this matter and ensuring that justice is served for all parties, as the judge mentioned, not just for the Meyiwa family who are mourning the loss of their loved one, but also for those that are sitting behind bars, whether or not they are the rightful people that are behind bars?
Well, I'm interacting with Senzo Meyiwa, the brother of Senzo, and with others to try and counsel and console them that not to lose hope, and to exactly say, well, this is a moment that will actually, in a sense, set things on a course. We talk about restorative justice. I've came across the word, the restoring of justice. That's what's needed in this country. We need to take what's in our Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the rule of law, and say it's not something which is on paper. It needs to be internalized in good prosecution, good defense, good judicial process. And I think that was happening here. It was happening, and the judge is doing his best to keep things in a decorum in court. And it just biases the whole system in the court of public opinion, and I'm concerned that people will start feeling a sense that there is no hope. And I don't want to send that signal. I want to say the very fact that we've been able to prevail so far is actually showing that the truth might, does set us free, even though initially it might make us miserable, confused, and all the rest. It does. And I think that the facts will come out. History will be on our side.
Thank you so much. That was John Clark speaking to us here outside at the Pretoria High Court, where just a few minutes ago we saw the defense lawyer in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, advocate Malesela Teffo, being taken into police custody for contempt of court. We're still trying to get clarity on what exactly the charges are with regards to this matter. But speaking to someone who is very close to the advocate, he was explaining to us that this is not unusual for Advocate Teffo. He's been receiving intimidation allegedly for his work regarding corruption within the police, as well as his other kind of cases that he does represent. We know and we've heard from the advocate over the weeks, when the trial was just beginning, saying that he has been receiving death threats. His attorneys have also been receiving death threats. And also, we heard from the brother, Senzo Meyiwa, just last week, saying that the police had also called him in, or said that they would be looking to interview him and maybe he may face charges of contempt of court as well. So this matter has seen a lot of dramatic turns this morning. Just alone, the cross-examination of Sergeant Thabo Mosia began with the state bringing heads of argument and saying that they did not believe that the line of questioning that Advocate Teffo was using and posing to the witness was the correct line. They felt that it was biased towards his experience, and they also asked for that evidence that he gave when it came to forensic and ballistic, which are outside of his scope, should be expunged. So that was something that they started on. Then we heard Advocate Teffo putting to the witness that the crime scene could have been tampered with, alleging that by the time Sergeant Thabo Mosia, the forensic officer, arrived at that scene, almost 4 to 5 hours, because there was also a dispute around the time that the actual shooting took place, that when he arrived there, that the entire scene was staged, and it was a staged and set up to allow for a specific narrative for him to then report back on. Advocate Teffo told him that he was basically played or coerced into creating a version of events unbeknown to him, and alleged or stated that there may have been a meeting by the family as well as top police officials at the home of Kelly Khumalo's mother in 2014, hours before they even phoned for the forensic officer to arrive at the scene and to start collating evidence. There was also dispute around the DNA evidence of the hat, which was supposed to be alleged to be of the suspect, accused number 3, the person who is alleged to have shot that fatal shot that night after a scuffle, and it's alleged, according to Advocate Teffo, that DNA is now females. However, the state defers and says that they will bring witnesses that show that it actually contradicts and it is a male. So there's been a lot of information coming out just from this first witness. He's still under oath, and when the matter returns on the 30th of May, we'll see that cross-examination beginning with Advocate Mshololo for accused number 5. For now, the matter has been stood down because it had been penned for these few days, and right now it's finding out when would Advocate Teffo appear in court. If he does, what charges he's facing, and when will that court appearance be. We're trying to get more information regarding that, and we'll keep you updated. But for now, back to you in studio.
Hasina, before you go, just for the benefit of those that have just recently joined us now, I mean, we're still showing visuals of Advocate Teffo in court. Explain to us where he is at the moment. And I mean, just earlier we heard a video recording. It's currently doing the social media rounds, where he's made some interesting statements, yet serious, saying that he believes that his arrest, that in fact the police minister is behind his arrest, that in fact a warrant of his arrest was issued in January, questioning why now, why he's being arrested now. Just talk us through what the very latest is in terms of where he is at the moment, and also just some of those utterances that he made as he was being handcuffed.
So those utterances you heard was during the court, outside, inside the courtroom, while he was packing up after the day was over, and you saw those police officers coming in. You saw, quite heavily armed, and the warrant officer, telling him that he was being served. You also heard from the other advocates, including the state advocate, asking why now, why specifically right now, what were the charges. They didn't want to actually read that out. We're trying to also get clarity where exactly he is at the moment. We are outside the court. He was not taken outside the courthouse. He was taken down into the cells, and we are unsure where he's going to be taken to. I've been trying to get hold of the police at this stage, as well as NPA, but NPA can only speak once he's been formally charged. So right now we're trying to get some clarity from the police on what exactly is the process right now when it comes to Advocate Teffo. His attorney, as well as some of the counsel, are still here at the courthouse, also trying to seek some clarity, and we're hoping to speak to them as well. So as you heard, those charges, as he said, the warrant had come out in January, and there was a question then, why specifically now? Why today specifically did they decide to come and arrest him quite publicly, quite openly here in the courtroom, in the middle of quite a high-profile case that has such a big public as well as media interest in it, and what was that optics and what was the reasoning behind it? And I think these are questions that we'd have to pose to the police as well, to find out why exactly was this arrest done in this manner, and what exactly are the charges. We know it's contempt of court, but for non-appearance, but on what charges were, that is what we're still trying to find out.
Hasina, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go because, of course, as you said, there are more questions than answers as it relates to this particular matter. Hasina Gori outside the North Gauteng High Court, giving us blow-by-blow details there on this latest arrest. She, in fact, spoke to Advocate Teffo's friend earlier on by the name of John Clark, talking us through who Advocate Teffo actually is, saying that he is actually a former police officer and that he is a defender of whistleblowers, saying that the fact that a warrant of arrest was issued in January and only now he is being, taken into custody is questionable, and saying that it sounds and it seems like a case of intimidation against Advocate Teffo. We'll bring you the latest in the story.